And now you guys are going to be in for a great treat. We've got the dynamic duo coming up with Breed Improvement. We've got Dr. Hanna Ostrovski and Dr. Daniela Lorenskio. I have really a hard time pronouncing her last name, but you will learn so much from these two young ladies, and I am so pleased to introduce them.
Daniela Lorenko. It took me a while too, but she's here. Hi everyone, my name is Hanna Ostrovski, and I am your Director of Breed Improvement. That encompasses a lot of stuff, so I'm going to probably talk to you about programs that you may not have heard of, and programs that we have coming on. In the middle of my speech, I'm going to give a little pause and hand over to Daniela. She works at UGA. She's a professor there, and she has been critical and crucial, their whole team has, in getting our EPDs run and kind of helping us along in getting those put together. So she's going to talk a little bit about our genomic evaluation and what we can strive for, and a little bit about their team there as well. So yeah, just talking about the updates. So I'm going to give you guys an overview. I like to have these so I know where I'm at in presentations. I'm going to introduce you into the Wagyu landscape as I know it. I am a geneticist. I stay in the research world. I try to stay as objective as possible. If you talk to me about specific bulls and specific bull names, I kind of make it a point to maybe not learn those, just so I can stay as objective as possible. I try to stay with the numbers. I don't like to be very biased. So this is coming from someone who's kind of stood out of that in the Wagyu landscape. We're going to go over our current program updates, what's been going on, what you guys can look forward to in this next couple months, our future program timelines, what you guys can be a part of, and I hope you all can be a part of, and what's really going to push this breed forward. We're going to hear from Professor Lorenko about our evaluation, and then I'm going to have some closing remarks, and then you can bombard me with whatever questions you guys have. So this is kind of the Wagyu landscape as I see it, what haunts me at night, and what I talk to a lot of researchers about, and what I see come through publications. So we all know this. We have a very small genomic base. There are variations, or a genomic variation, aka what we can really select on, is a lot smaller, a lot more narrow than other breeds. So if you think about Angus, they got millions and millions and millions of cows on the ground. They have a lot more selection decisions than you guys do. And that's not to say that they're better or worse, but we really do have a small genomic base to work from. So the small herd size can contribute to a lot of different things: accessibility of research, materials, and collaboration. So if someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to do research on a 3,000 head and I need this sort of information, and it's a university, we kind of have to dig to find that. So we've gotten very creative on leveraging our research capabilities, and we've had a lot of universities just recently come to the table to want to kind of look into Wagyu. So our increased interest has come from universities and consumers. The universities are interested in someone who hasn't been studied a lot. When you look at research papers, it's Angus, Hereford, Charolais. There's not a lot of Wagyu, which means we're kind of a black box. And if you know anything about researchers, they're always trying to uncover the unknown. So we are a bit of the unknown. So be excited about that. Think about the problems that you're having that might be different to traditional Wagyu or traditional US breeds. That might be something we can approach a university about that can get them really excited. So my fourth one there is American ranchers still need more education about Wagyu. So I go to the more kind of larger NCBA, BIF conferences. They mostly encompass non-Wagyu breeders. Some of you do show up, and I do appreciate that, and I'm so glad to see you, and I hope you come this year and years following. But when we're there, we don't hear a lot about Wagyu. And it's kind of sad because they start complaining about stuff that we can fix. So the focus for the other breeds, they say, we don't have high meat quality. We need more consistent high meat quality. We need lower birth weight. We need robust animals. And guess what? Our breed can fix all of those. So to get our foot in the door, we always are pushing for new research to kind of prove that we are a valuable breed within the space. And we can solve a lot of these problems for these guys. So if you're going out there and preaching meat quality, that's a great, great pillar. But also say, hey, we have low birth weights. You're not going to be out there, pulling calves all day and night. It's gonna be pretty easy. We talk about fertility. We talk about what's called fitness of an animal. How long can they stay out there without you needing to intervene? How long can they not break an ankle or just survive? And I hear from all of you, they're tough little boogers out there. So make sure you're talking to them about that, because they're worried about that, and they're concerned about all of those things. Really important pieces for your U.S. rancher. So let's talk about some current program updates. These are programs that either we've gotten started within the last year, the last couple years. I first want to talk about the Carcass Research Program. I don't know if y'all know this, but we have a kind of rebate back system within the association. It's called Carcass Research. So if y'all have consistent carcass data that y'all are getting in, and you know it's going to come, and it's all going to be connected to someone that I can get to genetically, then we can give you a monetary rebate back. This program has been really great for people who are looking to get data in, and maybe, our standard is to have at least that Seek sire, so that $25 test to make sure we have a carcass record connected to someone genetically. But when you get that rebate back, that price tag does come down. And it kind of is a big thank you from us to y'all for carcass information. If you're interested about that, just email me or Shyla, and we can get you started pretty much in the next 20 minutes. So it's a very easy program to get started in. We have talked a lot about authentic Wagyu, and I'm not going to delve too far deep into it because I'm going to hand the reins off to Johnette. She's the expert in the room, but it's a really great program that you guys can all be a part of. And we see someday, probably, hopefully, data coming out of that program back into the association. That's kind of, the pie in the sky. Right now, we're just trying to get it started, get it rolling for y'all, get those labels on. But once it gets rolling, I'm positive that data is going to be coming back out of that program. We also have our monthly educational series. I don't know if y'all been tuning into that or not. That's just something we started this year. It's kind of been on the back burner. We just said, let's do it. Every single month we have some professionals come and talk. Sometimes it's me. We had Dr. Daryl Peel. He talked about economic stuff. We had Dr. Stephen Smith, who is world-renowned meat scientist for Wagyu. And we're going to continue those and make sure that every month they come up, and you should get emails about that, and we push on social media. But here's a link to all of our previously recorded educational series. They're all online for you to watch completely for free. We want you guys to have that education at your fingertips. So I did one on how to select bulls and how to kind of look at EPDs. So if you want to watch that one, it's a pretty good one. I'm going to move on to our progeny test. We have a big, beautiful progeny test that we have started, in collaboration with AgriBeef. So we just had all of the cows artificially inseminated. It was completed this summer. The beautiful part about this, you guys, is it a large, single managed farm, which is huge for unbiased data. If we're talking about clean data, easy data to manage, easy data to go into evaluations, we're talking about a herd like this. They have 1,200 heifers every single year that are ready. I don't know if anyone else has that large of a herd that are managed, data collection all the way through beginning to end, with carcass data and everything. So this is a beautiful opportunity that we get to have this project with us in the AWA. So the number that came out of AgriBeef is we had about a little over 1,000 cows were inseminated with AWA bulls that were chosen last year from people who wanted to participate in this program, which is huge for EPDs in coming years. So that's 1,000 data points that are going to be clean and usable every time we get new data sets in. So that's birth weight, weaning weight, yearling weight, all the way into marbling. So we're really excited about this program, and we continue to be very thankful to our collaborators as well. So just a little bit of a timeline. These do obviously take a little while. So a timeline for you guys. So we had our initial kind of bull search where you were able to submit a bull for free to see if it was able to be chosen. And then we chose the bulls and we had semen sent, and we're kind of on number 4 there. So we're getting there. We're getting there, almost halfway through, right? And kind of lastly, and this is something I've been pushing for and something that's really exciting, new on the market, is a DNA management system. I don't know how many of you actually see or know what your DNA looks like when it gets to me. It's huge, huge files, gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes that crash computers. They eliminate servers. It's very hard to manage a large amount of DNA. And edit that DNA and make sure it's at high quality for everyone and usable. So we kind of reached out to Helical. They are a DNA management software. The 2 gentlemen that started Helical and run Helical are giants in the genomic space. So I had pretty good promise that I knew that what they were doing. So our system is expanding rapidly. You guys are DNA testing like crazy, and I love it. It's great, which is, a good thing, but our files are getting bigger, right? We need a better way to management. So our solution is through this program, Theta Solutions with their program Helical. So right now, it's just an internal system that the office will be using. We might roll out a little bit of data or DNA management pieces for y'all. But what it's going to actually do for you is it will decrease the time for parent verification. If you guys are doing herd searches, this is gonna take that time way down. It'll standardize all the data types coming into the association. So sometimes we have funky files coming from I don't know where, and we gotta go hunt them down, and it takes forever to open them. We can put them right into Helical, and they'll read it, and we'll be able to manage it from there. We can house really large data files. I don't know if y'all have looked at server space and how expensive that can be. So hopefully our IT costs in that region will decrease. And then we will provide a sleek and easy interface once we get this open to you guys, for you guys to order, review, and see your DNA results. So it's a great way. It won't be through Digital Beef. It'll be something else that'll probably link in, but it'll be free for you guys to use. We're really excited about this system, and it's really fast, which is going to be really great for the ladies in the office and me as well moving forward. So I want to switch it over to Daniela. She's going to talk a bit about our genomic evaluation.
Thanks, Hanna. It's a pleasure to be here today. Actually, I was invited to be here 2022, 2023, 2024. But because of my agenda, I was never able to come here. And I know that my last name is complicated, but the English version is Lawrence. Pretty easy, right? Anyways, okay, so I'm going to talk about genetic evaluations or genomic evaluations for the American Wagyu Association. But first, I need to pave the stage. So, first thing, at University of Georgia, we have this research program that started about 40 years ago. So 40 years, we've been working with animal breeding genetics, and our focus is research, so to develop methods and also to develop software. So the most important thing for us is to do research. And we publish about 20 research papers, scientific articles per year, and whatever we think is good, we just put it into software. And I can tell you that this software package that we develop at UGA is 100% American. So if you think about other software available, we don't have a software package that does everything that we do with our software package that is 100% American. So we should be proud of that. And then to do that, we need a large team. So this is the team that we have, or our herd, right? So we have about 24 people in the team, and also we have some external collaborators. And to be able to work with this many people, to be able to do what we do, we need different backgrounds. So we have people that are veterinarians, we have animal scientists, we have plant scientists, we have biologists, so we have a great set of people. And also to be able to do the research that we do, we need a lot of collaborators. So we work with industry, so we work with beef cattle, dairy cattle, pigs, also with poultry and fish. So those are the collaborators that contribute to our research at UGA. And then recently I was asked about the impact of the research that we do at the UGA. And then I was thinking, how can we measure the impact, right? And the way that I came up with is this. So think about that we go to a steakhouse. We go to a steakhouse and we order a Wagyu steak, right? So the probability that the parents of that steak that you're eating here in the US, the probability that the parents were evaluated by the software that we develop and the methods we also develop is 95%. If you order a Angus steak, also 95%. If you order Charolais, also 95%. And there are other breeds as well. If we think about pork, if we order pork at a restaurant, the probability that the parents of that piece of pork we are eating were evaluated by our software and methods is also 95%. If you order chicken, 50%. If you order fish, catfish, also 50%. And this is in the US, right? If we eat eggs, 50% as well. And milk, soon to be 95%. So when you have a steak or you drink a cup of milk, you remember that the parents of that protein piece that you're eating were evaluated by UGA software and methods. And when you think about what we do, right, we mainly improve genetics. So the question is, should we select based on genetics or based on performance? I'll need your help here. So let's imagine that our task is to improve carcass. We want animals that have greater carcass weight, greater carcasses. So I need your help here. If this is the objective, to select animals with better carcasses, like heavier carcasses, would you pick bull number 1? Raise your hand if you would pick bull number 1. Raise your hand if you would pick bull number 2. You guys did a great job. So what we are doing here is an exercise of selection based on phenotypes, right? Based on performance, based on what you see. So let's see if you guys actually did a great job or not. Let's see the name of the first bull, Capitalist. The ID is 7AN351. Second bull, what's the name of the second bull? Capitalist. ID 7AN351. Exactly the same bull. What is the difference here? Age. The first picture was taken when this animal was 2 years old. The second one, the animal was 5 years old. If you were good enough in selecting based on phenotypes, you would have started your selection earlier, right? But this picture here is to make a point that phenotypic selection can lead us to some place, but it's not very accurate, right? So with phenotypic selection, it may work, but it may work very, very slow. So this is the point that I wanted to make with this picture. And I'm sorry because I did not bring a picture of Wagyu. Sometimes it's hard to find pictures to make the point that we want to make, so I brought Angus here. So this is the point here that I want to make. Selection, right, should not be based on performance. Why is that? Because when you look at performance, we have genetics and we also have environment. And we have the environmental portion that we can identify, like contemporary groups, animals that are from the same year, same season, the same herd, and some environmental factors that we cannot see, right? So this goes to the model in the error. And another portion is the genetics. But the genetics, we have the additive genetics, which is the EPD portion, and we also have non-additive genetics that's not inherited here. What is inherited is the EPD, the additive portion. So this is the portion that goes from generation to generation. So when we see an animal, what we are seeing is actually the combination of the genetics and also the environment. And the genetics is what is heritable, what goes from generation to generation. The environment is not heritable, right? And there is a concept here that is very important for us, which is heritability. So what is heritability? We see animals, right? And we know that there is a huge variation in what we see. This is what we call phenotypic variation, right? The animals are different. So what is the proportion of that phenotypic variation that is due to genetics variation? whatever is due to genetic variation, it's going to be inherited. And this is the concept of heritability. So what is the proportion of the phenotypic differences that are due to the genetic differences? So it's like just seeing what is genetics from what we are seeing. And this is the point here. So if the heritability of the trait is high, whatever we see, right, is a good proxy of the genetics of the animal. But if the heritability is low, whatever we see, the phenotype, the P here, is not a good proxy of the genetic component because the genetic component is very small. So when you look at the traits that we select for, right, so if the heritability of the trait was 1, if it was 0.95, it was 0.9, we could select based on the performance, but this is not the case. So here's the heritability of the traits that we select for here. So we have birth weight, weaning weight, post-weaning gain, carcass weight, carcass ribeye area, ultrasound ribeye area, carcass back fat, ultrasound back fat. We have MB-IMF, we have E plus V marbling score, we have MIJ intramuscular fat, we have US intramuscular fat, and we have ribeye beef marbling score. So we have several traits. And we can see here that most of them, the heritability is not 1 or all of them, right? It's not even 0.9, right? So the heritability here ranges like from 0.17 to the maximum of 0.73. So based on this one, it can tell us that EPD is the way to go. And another thing that I want you to understand is that the genetic changes, they are cumulative. Whatever we achieve with genetics, it moves from generation to generation, so it accumulates, right? And this is actually one of the basic principles of animal breeding genetics. So genetics are cumulative. The genetic changes that we have are cumulative. And then I brought this formula here that it's called the breeder's equation. Who has never seen this equation before? Raise your hand. Okay, so what is this equation? I know that we don't like formulas much, right? So let's translate that into words. So this formula tells us that the genetic gain, it's equal to the selection intensity, how much pressure we are putting in the selection, times the accuracy of selection. So how close our breeding values are from the true breeding values. The breeding values that we are estimating are to the true breeding values, times the additive genetic standard deviation. This is just our genetic variation, divided by generation interval. So if we use this formula, we can calculate how much gain we are having per generation. And if we look about the gain that we have had in animal breeding genetics, right? Before 1960s, we are selecting based on phenotypes because we had nothing better than that to select for. So with that, we had some genetic gain, but the genetic gain is slow. From 1960s to about 2009, we started selecting based on phenotypes and pedigrees, so we are calculating EPDs, and then we could achieve a good genetic gain. But then in 2009, we started using genomic information in what we call the genomic selection. So for genomic selection, we use phenotypes, pedigree, and genotypes, and we calculate what we call genomic EPDs. So with that, we are achieving a very fast genetic gain. But how did we get there, right? So how did we start using genomic selection? So 2001, scientists, they published the first draft of the human genome. And in this project, they were very ambitious. So they wanted to discover all the genes and the functions of all the genes, but they were not able to do that. What they did instead is that they discovered that the most of the variation that we have in the DNA are due to SNPs, single nucleotide polymorphisms. And we heard about SNPs yesterday, we heard about SNPs today, right? So most of the difference that we see are due to those SNPs, right? And then 2001, still, there was a group of animal geneticists that they published this paper saying that in the future, we will be able to select animals or to calculate EPDs based on SNPs. So this is what we do today, right? 2001, they predicted that. But they said, now we cannot do that because it's too expensive. So we will need to wait until genotyping becomes cheaper. So in 2007, the first genetic testing became available. And this was for humans. 23andMe made it available. But 1 year later, we were able to get our own genomic testing for cattle. And the first genomic evaluation ever was for Holsteins in the US, so for dairy cattle. So they were the first ones to implement genomic selection, so back in 2009, right? And then if you look back at the breeder's equation, right, I brought it back just to show you what is the impact of genomic selection here. So with genomic selection, we can increase the accuracy of selection, this green portion, and we can reduce the generation interval. So now you guys tell me, if we increase the accuracy of selection, right, and we decrease generation interval, what happens with the genetic gain? Huh? Increases, right? So this is what genomics is doing for us. It's helping us to speed up genetic gain. And then to help speed up genetic gain, at UGA, back in 2008, we started developing a method that is called single step. Have you guys heard about single step? Raise your hands. So single step was developed by UGA, our group at UGA. And we started developing this method in 2008. So this method actually is called single step because we put pedigrees, phenotypes, and genotypes all together in a single evaluation. We don't do patchwork as the other methods were doing, multi-step methods, right? So just having several steps. We do everything in just one step. And then I was trying to find a way to explain how single step works for beef cattle producers. And then I realized that this would be a good way because I love trucks, I love cars. So think about your truck over there in your farm. So what do you need to run your truck? You need fuel and you need oil, engine oil, right? If you have those two things, you can run your truck. What if you want to speed up your truck a little bit, make your truck faster? What do you put? Some fuel additive, right? So now we replace the truck by our single step equation. We replace fuel by phenotypes, engine oil by pedigree, and the fuel additive to make our truck run faster, we replace by genomic information. So we replace by genomic information, then we have a method that helps us to reach our goal faster. So this is the objective of single step. And then, as I told you, single step was developed at UGA, right? And single step is the most used method for genomic evaluation in the world right now. And there is not just the flavor that was invented at UGA, but there are at least 2 more different flavors of single step. Single step genomic blood is the one that we developed at UGA. It was the first single step method available. So it's the most used in animals. It's also being used in plants. And believe you or not, it was also applied to humans. For what, right? So we call EPDs, right? Do you know another name for EPDs? Do you know that EPDs can also be called breeding values? You know that? EPDs can also be called breeding values, right? But in humans, we don't calculate breeding values. We calculate what we call polygenic risk scores. It's just like to assess the risk of having some disease or not, right? So why we don't call breeding values in humans? Why don't we call breeding values in humans? Because we don't do selection in humans, right? Do we do selection in humans? We do selection. Did you get married to a random person on the street? No, right? I did not, and I need to be careful to say that because my husband is here, but I had a pretty huge selection index, right? So anyways, he did not hear that, but okay. So yes, in humans we can also calculate breeding values, but we call it polygenic risk scores, right? And in fact, our software from UGA is being used by a genetics group in Pittsburgh, in a human genetics hospital, to calculate polygenic risk score, the risk of having autism, schizophrenia, ADHD, something like that. But anyways, yeah, so it's being used for human genetics as well. So let me try to speed up now. So let's talk about the American Wagyu evaluation, right? So the American Wagyu evaluation is powered by single step from UGA. And right now, in the last evaluation from July, we used almost 65,000 genotyped animals. Is it a good number or not? I need to tell you that you guys are doing a great job. And I'm very transparent. When I think you guys are doing a great job, I'm going to tell you. When I think that you guys are not doing a great job, I'm also going to tell you, okay? So anyway, 65,000 out of 132,000 registered animals that go into the evaluation. So half of the animals that go into the evaluation are genotyped. This is great. So no other breeds that we work with has genotyped half of the animals. So you guys are doing a great job in genotyping, right? But then you may be asking yourselves, how are we compared to other breeds or other species on the number of genotyped animals, right? So I always like to have this slide so people know what's going on around. In fish, they may genotype from 5,000 to 50,000 individuals. In sheep, from 100,000 to 300,000, depending on the breed. So this is mainly not here in the US, right? I would say in Australia. Chickens, about 200,000 genotyped individuals per line. In pigs, about 300,000 per line. Here for the Simmentals, I just asked Mehdi, so it may be from 400,000 to 500,000 genotyped individuals that go into the evaluation. Jerseys, dairy cattle, 921,000. Angus, almost 2 million animals go into the evaluation, genotyped animals, and they run evaluations every single week. And for Holsteins here in the US, they have 9 million genotyped animals, right? That's a lot. That's a lot, and I need to tell you that it's really hard to run an evaluation that has 9 million genotyped animals. And right now, CDCB, the Council on Dairy Cattle Breeding, that runs the main evaluation, dairy cattle evaluation in the US, they're also changing to our software and methods. So we are working very hard to make sure that this is going to work very well. So, just to make a point here, Angus, 2 million genotyped animals going to the evaluation. How many animals in the pedigree? A little bit less than 15 million. So we have about like 15% are genotyped. Holsteins, 9 million animals that are genotyped in the evaluation. How many animals do they have in the pedigree? 100 million. 100 million animals in the pedigree. When did they start collecting pedigrees? If you look at the evaluation, they have animals that date back to 1900 in the evaluation, right? So they started way earlier. And our colleague Lisa, she showed the gain that we achieved in dairy, right? So anyways, just to make a point. So here, your evaluation, let's talk about your evaluation, right? So I tried to see, okay, how much progress we are making over the years, right? So here, I wanted to compare. Let's imagine a situation that we are not using genomic information. This is the blue bar, without genomic information, just EPDs based on phenotypes and pedigree. And then in green, by using genomic information, genotypes, pedigree, and phenotypes. So we can see that using genomics is bringing us some advantage. So we have a bigger gain here. And also, you may see that there is fluctuation over the years. So why is that? So this fluctuation here is happening before you started running your evaluation. When you started running your evaluation, this is the period that we have covered here. So we can see an increase here and a shift for winning weight of about 6 points, right? So if we think about growth, growth is a success story, but what about carcass and marbling that is very important for the breed? So for that, we did not have enough sires yet to have our plots of genetic trends. But I'm pretty sure that soon we will have that and we will be able to assess the gain that you are having. So as you have a success story for growth traits, let's talk about success stories from other breeds or other species, right? So if you think about Angus, right? So here we have a graph that shows how much gain they were having. And in red, we have before genomic evaluation was implemented. So it was from 2001 to 2010. And in gray, from 2010 to 2021. So we can see here that for most of the traits, right? So we have that with genomic information, after they implemented genomic selection, the gain was higher. So winning weight, And then we have carcass weight, then marbling, ribeye area, and then we have two traits here, milk and fat, that is slowing down, right? Is it good that milk and fat, this is back fat, is it good that it's slowing down? It's good, because the cow should produce just enough milk to feed the calves, not more than that. And what about back fat? If we can increase marbling but reduce back fat, for them is what they want, right? So this, we say that they're going the right direction. And then what about in pigs? What happened in pigs after they started using genomic selection? So here we have a graph of an index that PIC used. So PIC is the Pig Improvement Company. So we have here the dashed line, GS is when they implemented genomic selection. This was November 2013. So this gray area here is how much they gained after they implemented genomic selection. If they had not implemented genomic selection, they would be here today, but they are here. And another interesting thing that happened for them is this. So for them, number of piglets born is very important, but the piglets should have high birth weight, but we know that the uterine space is limited. So if we have more piglets, what happens with the piglet weight at birth? Goes down, right? This is biology. So, but after genomic selection, they were able to identify sows that would have more piglets, and those piglets will be heavier at weight. So genomics helped them to identify sows that will do exactly what they wanted to do. And then let's talk about dairy cattle, Holsteins, right? They implemented genomic selection in 2009. So here is when they implemented genomic selection, this dashed line. And here, if they had not implemented genomic selection, they would be here in this red line. But today, they're here. So there was an increase of twice in the genetic gain that they could obtain after using genomics. And the genetic gain for them increased because of two things that I showed you before. Accuracy, increase of accuracy, right, of breeding values. Second, reduction of generation interval. And if we look here, we can see that the generation interval reduced in bulls from 9.4 years to 2.2 years. And in cows from 6 years to 2.2 years as well. So reduction of generation interval was huge because they rely on, or they used to rely on progeny testing, so at least 7 or 8 years for bulls, but now they're speeding up. So in 8 years, they have 3 generations. Before they had just 1. But I wanted to make a point here. So if we look at the graph for Holsteins, we can see that the blue line is separated from the red line. So this is the gain that they're having, this distance here. But if you look at other breed like Ayrshire, can you see here that after the implementation of genomics, there was no change in the inflection of the line, which means that genomics did not speed up the rates of genetic gain for them. And why do you think this is the case? Because for Holsteins, they adopted genomic selection 2009, but for Ayrshire 2013, so later adoption. Also, the number of genotyped individuals in Holsteins, at the point that we draw those graphs, they had 5.5 million genotyped animals for Holsteins, but for Ayrshire, 16,000. Another difference here is the amount of phenotypes. For Ayrshire, they have way less phenotypes. That's why they did not see an increase in genetic gain after genomics. But this will come with years as they phenotype more individuals. And this is another point that I want to make here. Phenotyping is extremely important. And then you ask me, how important is phenotyping given that we have genomic information, right? So if you cannot remember anything I said today, at least this you should remember. And you should take a picture of that as well that I'm going to show right now. So having genotypes without having phenotypes is the same as having a credit card without having money to pay the bill at the end of the month, right? You can use your credit once, right? You can buy whatever you want, but if you don't have money to pay at the end of the month, what happens with your credit? Cut, right? You cannot use that again. So this is the importance of phenotypes in the genomics era. We really need phenotypes to feed our system, right? And here, I wanted to bring these just to show you the importance of phenotypes. So our colleagues from the American Angus Association, they investigated what is the impact if we just remove phenotypes. So 2010, we started using genomic selection. Let's go back and remove all the phenotypes for carcass traits. So since 2010, we don't have more phenotypes. We're not collecting more phenotypes, right? See what happened with the accuracy here. So the lighter blue line is the accuracy with the phenotypes in the system. The darker blue is without phenotypes in the system. So we can see a decrease in accuracy of more than 30% for the carcass traits. Is it significant? It is pretty significant, right? So let's look at the numbers for your evaluation. Last year, my colleague Jorge Hidalgo, he was here presenting, and then he presented the numbers from the July 2024 evaluation. And then now I want to show the results from the July 2025 evaluation. So we can see here that we have 23,000 more animals in the pedigree that were going through the evaluation. Great. 10,000 more genotyped animals going to the evaluation. Great. 9,000 more birth weight records. Very good. 2.3 thousand winning weight records. Good. 1,000 more records for post-winning gain. 500 more records for carcass weight. 38 more records for back fat. 57 more records for ultrasound ribeye area. 106 more records for ultrasound back fat. No more records for master beef, IMF. 390 more records for MIJ. 3 more records for E plus V, MS. 106 more records for ultrasound IMF. And 0 more records for ribeye beef marbling score. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? No, right? What does it tell us? We need to collect more phenotypes. Collecting more phenotypes is the way that you have now to increase the accuracy of your EPDs. You are doing a great job genotyping, you should keep doing that, but we do need phenotypes. Without phenotypes, we cannot increase the accuracy of our EPDs, right? Okay, so just to make the point here, going back to our single step, we have a phenotype. How did I call the phenotypes? Phenotype is the fuel, right? So phenotype is the fuel of our genomic evaluation, right? If you don't collect phenotypes, don't come to complain that the accuracy of EPDs is low, right? Once you start collecting phenotypes, you see how your EPDs are going to behave. So if you don't collect phenotypes, you break one of the key principles of animal breeding genetics. If we can measure it, we can improve it, right? So if we don't measure it, we don't improve it, right? So this is one of the key principles, right? So I'm also going to give you a homework. What is the homework that I should give you? I'm not going to tell you. You should tell me what is the homework I should give you. Measure it, right? Measure it, right? And I hope that in 2 years I'll come here and we'll have completely different numbers, right? And why I want you to collect phenotypes as well. I have a son, he's almost 2 years old, and he loves beef. He loves beef, right? So here's the steak that I showed you before. So it's a 2-pound steak. He ate a good portion of that, and he was trying to get more meat out of the bone, right? So I wanted my son to have a great steak experience. But not just my son. I wanted your kids, your grandkids, the grandkids of your grandkids to have a great experience when they have a steak, right? So this is what I really hope. And then to make the last point here, I will bring back the breeder's equation. We all know this breeder's equation now, right? We know that it tells us how much gain we are having by using our EPDs. But this equation has a hidden component that nobody talks about. Actually, I'm the only one who talks about this hidden component. And I named this hidden component delta, because delta is equivalent of D, and my name starts with D, right? So it's a small delta here. And what is this small delta? How much you trust the geneticists. So now I want you to help me. We have this delta here that multiplies the equation of genetic gain. If you don't trust what I'm saying here, this delta is 0. Multiply 0 there by the equation. How much gain do we have? 0, right? So this delta is extremely important because it tells us how much gain we're going to have depending on the fact that you trust what the geneticists are telling you, right? So I hope this is something that you are not going to forget from my talk, and I really hope to come here in 2 years to tell you, to bring you different numbers, right? So take-home message from me, at least. Hanna has her take-home messages. So phenotypes, genotypes, and pedigree, they are the core components of genomic evaluations. Genomic information increases the genetic gain, that's completely right, but phenotypes, they anchor the genomic success. Also, your evaluation is powered by UGA single-step method that's been under research for over 17 years. A method that is being under research for 17 years. You are doing a great job genotyping, but you have a homework which is phenotyping. So in 2 years, I'll come here and say, guys, you're doing a great job phenotyping. So this is what I really hope. I'm going to give it back to Hanna now. And then if you have any questions, I know that you guys have very tough questions. We can talk about that after Hanna finishes. Do you want to listen? Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Thank you, Danny, so much. Danny is a leader, if you can't tell, in the breeding and genetics field, and it's always wonderful to hear her speak at associations and even at research conferences. Those get very intense, which is really, really fun, always learning something new. All right, I'm going to finish you guys up a bit with future program updates, stuff you probably want to hear about. University and research collaboration, as I said. I get research information and wants from universities a lot. Recently, I had someone reach out from LSU looking to get some collaboration. We have future collaboration in line with Michigan State. They actually just got a grant to look at Wagyu and their collaborative research as a piece of a crossbreeding program that they are doing, which I know is very important to all of us here, and it will encompass that beef on dairy piece, I think, that we're really interested about. Of course, we continue with UGA as well, and I hope to continue and spread our research collaboration further. We have our progeny test coming up this year, so I know I really excited you about the one we have going on right now. Well, you can still be a part of it. Expansion of our EPD suite and index creation. So here we go, progeny test number 2, or progeny test 2025. So same sort of idea. We are able to utilize the herd and management systems at AgriBeef to really fuel our phenotypes, which is what Danny is kind of preaching, right? If you do not have the resources to fuel your guys' phenotypes, this might be something you can look into. Go ahead and you can take a picture of that QR code. It'll take you to a sign-up sheet where you can submit a bull. Submitting one of your bulls is free. And we haven't discussed prices with AgriBeef, but if your bull is chosen, then it will be a set price, and you will get that information back from the association. And it will go into our EPDs and increase that accuracy and increase your genetic gain. So if we want to talk more about that, but it's the same sort of setup. We are going to expand our EPD research. Recently, I've been talking to a lot of you about how important our cow herd is. We talk about the beef and the bulls. Let's not forget the cows, right? So what is stayability? Stayability is one way to measure the fertility of a cow. So it's kind of their break-even point on how many calves they have, right? So that's kind of the definition from BIF, and I'll let you read that, and you can also go to their website. But we are going to try to get a stayability EPD up for you guys within the next year or two. It'll be a way for you to select for your cow's fertility. It's in its very, very interim research right now. We're kind of combing through the data and what we can use. But we're also finding a lot of interesting pieces when it comes to embryo work as well. You all probably have a cow that throws great embryos all the time. Let's see if that's heritable. Let's see if that's something we can get an EPD in front of you guys. So just know that this is high on my radar, and hopefully we'll be launching that soon. And kind of what everyone keeps talking about, and y'all couldn't just wait for a second, but we are going to finalize our index creation by the end of this year. We are going to start with 2 new indices, a terminal F1 index and a terminal full blood / purebred index. I know you guys have different terminal ideas, so we need 2 separate indices when it comes to those 2 separate production kind of lines. Index creation is very tricky, especially in a industry that our prices are not really posted online all the time. So we're having to think about, where do we top out at what IMF, and where do those rates go, and how does that, fit into an index? I've had multiple conversations with our index team, hours long. We sit on that Zoom call and flush out every single problem that the Wagyu could possibly have when it comes to index creation. We want to make sure we're going to get this right because these can be wielded very dangerously. So I am excited to get these in front of you, but it will come with a ton of education to make sure that y'all are using it in a way that will actually enhance the breed. So future index will encompass cow fertility, but we can't do that without our stayability EPD. So we're going to wait to get that one on board, and then we'll probably have 3 indices for you guys to select on your herds. So be on the lookout for an educational seminar. I'm thinking in October or November. And then we have a short white paper in the works by Dr. Matt Spangler. I don't know if any of you know him. He is a professor at UNL, and he is kind of the guru of indices. So he'll be writing a little white paper, which is just a short communication from research to industry, kind of focused just primarily on Wagyu indices and indices for you guys. So here are my closing thoughts, a little bit different from Daniela, but still on the same line. Wagyu breeders have a solution for the American rancher, and you need to capitalize on your intrinsic values of the breed. We have meat, that's great. Think outside the box. There are a lot of ranchers that are having different problems that you guys can definitely solve. And the intake of data has increased, as Daniela has told us, which does lead to better EPD estimations and a larger window into the breed. But we still are not at the point where we can have, a fully jet-powered engine going with phenotypes. We're there to create EPDs for you, and they have increased in accuracy. But without your phenotypes, those accuracies will not increase, and they can kind of stay stagnant. So we need power from you guys. There has been a large addition to programs. Many different programs are coming online, and there's an opportunity for every rancher. From that carcass research program, which takes 20 minutes to get onboarded, and then you kind of just go along your daily data collection, all the way to a progeny test, which is maybe a little bit more involved monetarily and with bull collection and everything. So the other thing I want you all to keep in mind is that breed improvement does not even happen overnight or even in a year. Slow and steady really wins the race. I was hired on, I think, 3.5 years ago, and I would say breed improvement is probably going to take a couple even more years than even when I was hired on. So we are getting there, but our generation interval is going down, and I'll be happy to take any questions. And I just really want to thank you guys. I have so much fun in this job. I have so much fun talking to you all. I have so much fun with coming up with solutions. And just being a part of this membership. So, any questions? Or for Daniela, we can get Danny going. Kyle. Go ahead. Is it on? Is it on? IT? There you go.
For either you or Daniela, what is, I mean, so much genomic work, a lot of progress, good things are ahead. With all that genomic work comes some other insights. Can you give us an idea of what the current effective population size is for full-bloods and purebreds within the AWA registry?
Is it around 14, 40?
No. We need to calculate that. We have a way to calculate that, and if you want, I can calculate like in a few minutes for you. Yeah, we can calculate based on the genomic information. I would guess that the effective population size is about like 50 or something like that. This is my guess, but I can calculate based on the genomic information that we have. Yeah.
Okay, because 10 years ago, it was like between 13 and 17, depending on what ruler you use, right? So I'm just curious, with all this new data, where we're at.
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, I'll calculate that for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, more genotypes can always increase that. Other questions?
When we're looking at measuring intermuscular fat and meat with like the MIDGE camera and stuff, with the technology of AI, the techno AI, do you know if there's any programs that's coming up that will use AI to measure and just make it a lot more simpler with like just an iPhone and stuff? Is there some things coming up that will help with that measurement?
Yes, so the MEQ camera, I know, has a lot of AI capabilities. I know that's in a small camera. I think maybe and they use a video that actually, I don't know if you saw it with the USDA guys, but they use a video and the AI makes a decision on when to best capture that video. I think a lot of problems that the cameras have is the consistency of picture quality. You need that hood, you need certain lighting. But I know that I have had multiple conversations with universities about possibly getting our own online, where you guys can just take a picture and then send it into an AWA type app and we can get something running. I think the most important thing that we can do when we talk about AI is have our own training database. And that just means have our own database of images that we own as an association that come from you guys that we can make, informed decisions on moving forward. I don't know.
Hanna?
Yeah, I just want to add something here. Having different cameras, lots of different cameras does not help. Because like you're using one camera, Sheila is using another camera, another breeder is using another camera, right? So at the end of the day, we have a little bit of data here, a little bit of here, a little bit here. It does not help because we don't have enough data with the 3 different cameras to run a robust evaluation, right? So, and I know that this became very commercial, so it will always have new different cameras and people trying to sell those cameras, right? So the best thing would be to have something that is powered by AWA, so every associate can just use the same camera. It can be a phone, it can be a cell phone, right? But the important thing is to have the same algorithm, so you can always get the same measure or the same type of statistics for everybody.
Yeah, and those cameras are a lifesaver when it comes to getting variation out of your animals in the carcass region. As we saw, it only goes up to prime, right? USDA grading. So if you want to capture that grading, thank goodness we had cameras. That's why we have pretty robust for now, as much as we have EPDs. So we're rolling with the tides. The technology changes. Jerry?
I know these indexes are expensive. What do they cost? And how come we're doing 2 terminal indexes? Why not 1 terminal and 1 replacement? Like do you think the terminal index for the F1 and the terminal index for the purebred and full-bloods are different? Why don't we do a replacement index for the full-bloods and a terminal for all 3 of the others?
I don't have a price tag for you right now, Jerry. We can talk later. It's probably the best deal we're gonna get with the people that are doing it are here right now. They're absolutely wonderful. They've done a ton of indices, and that's actually a really great point. We wanted to focus on terminal just to begin with, but replacement is probably not far behind. It would probably be easy to do. Well, it's kind of a one package, so we're not paying for like 2 terminal. We're paying for like the project, and then kind of what comes out of it will. It's kind of what we came up with when we were talking about it. We can continue to talk about how we want to piece it out, but we just, when you're sitting there forever and you're starting to think about the tiny little things, we thought that 2 might be the best way to go for now. When we start getting it up and running, doing kind of some preliminary, if there are large differences between the 2, then we need 2. If there are small differences, maybe we don't need the 2. But we haven't gotten to that stage yet. We're just kind of trying to flesh out the Wagyu landscape and really how to build this.
I know this might sound really stupid, but how do we enter phenotypes besides what we do when we register our animals?
So there are ways on digital beef for you to enter birth weight, weaning weight, and I think yearling weight as well. On the back end with carcass, email me. There are a bunch of different ways that I receive carcass data, and we can sit down and talk about the easiest way for you to get it to me, what you guys receive, and what you guys might need to ask for from your production facility. There are a lot of guys in the room that do submit carcass data to me, all the way from Google spreadsheets, Excel, large other different formats. I'm able to kind of handle anything you throw at me, and we're able to be pretty collaborative in that way. But moving forward, we do want to have a more standardized area for you to enter those carcass phenotypes outside of digital beef. And Helical, our DNA management system, has another system kind of for data standardization. We're going to kind of look into that, make sure the price tag isn't too hefty. But I think it would be a great way for you all to submit your data, especially when it comes from so many different sources. Hold on. Sorry, they got to hear you online.
In that incredible database for the Holsteins that you showed us, Danny, do you know what the degree of accuracy is on those animals in genomics right now? And what is that in comparison to the relatively new database that we have here for the Wagyu animals?
Yeah, so the accuracy for young bulls, the ones that don't have phenotypes, just genotypes and pedigree, it will be about like 0.8, but this is reliability. There are 3 main measures of accuracy: reliability, and BIF accuracy, right? They're different. So in terms of accuracy, if we think about accuracy, it will be more than 0.8, right? And then for bulls that have lots of progeny, it's like it reaches 0.99 very easily, yeah. And the level that you have here depends on the trait, right? The traits that you have more phenotypes, weaning weight, post-weaning gain, and birth weight, the accuracy is pretty high compared to the carcass traits that you have less phenotypes, right? But I mean, the key is to keep collecting phenotypes because you get there, right? You get to the level of accuracies that you.
What is pretty accurate though, right now? Just out of curiosity.
So yeah, let me show you something that I had
Just
prepared.
on the ones that you have some, I'm just curious what the pretty accurate would be as far as.
For the Wagyu evaluation, you mean?
Yeah, like on a
For
genomic.
the weaning weight, right? I don't have the average accuracies here. Probably Hanna has that, but I can look up. But one thing that I wanted to show you guys is, yeah, it's just coming. It's correctly connected here because it kind of reduced the size of the, yes, here. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. So we have, is it working? Okay, so this is what we have here. So the accuracy is in blue, right? And then what you guys use is the BIF accuracy, what is in green. So if you look here, you see that accuracy that is like let's say 0.55 in your scale, the scale that you have right now will be 0.84 in the regular accuracy scale. In the reliability, it's 0.7. So why do we have different measures? It was invented so it would penalize individuals that have a lot of progeny, so they would not reach 100% or 0.99 very fast, right? So this is what you use. And I know that there is a discussion, okay, why our accuracies are lower than the accuracies from Australia? First, they have more data, right? Second, they use a different measure. They use this accuracy here in blue, and we use this green one. It's really easy for us to bump like 30 points for you guys. It's just to move from this BIF accuracy to the same accuracy that Australians use. BIF is the one used for beef cattle here in the US, right? And how can we do that? It's extremely easy. You're not going to believe me, but it's just to change a square root from the place. If we change our square root here, so this is the accuracy, right? Look where the square root is, and here is the BIF accuracy that you guys use. We can just move this square root to here, and most likely you're going to have more similar level of accuracy than Australians, right? So it's just like the measure of accuracy that you guys use. If you get a consensus that you want to use the same accuracies as Australia use, this is very easy. I can just change the square root from the formula, right? So it's up to you guys.
So, question for Hanna. Yeah. Right now, it's a requirement that we do the grading, the camera grading photos on a hanging carcass. What if you were to have you ever considered eliminating that as a requirement and allowing photographs of just a steak from that carcass?
Yeah, I think that it introduces variation that maybe we don't want to see, but it also makes it easier for you all to get phenotypes in, right? We're constantly kind of treading that line, or I am, of, hey, I want our data to be unbiased and really powerful, but at what cost to you guys, right? So I think that's something that we can definitely look into. We might need a little more information where that rib was, where that ribeye came from. I don't know if you all can get that or how easy it is to get it. Probably not. But we can definitely do some preliminary work. I think if we start getting pictures and start building that database and just saying, hey, how well is this actually working? Doing some maybe, just picture with your cell phone from a random steak and picture from the hanging carcass and say, hey, do these correlate at all? Are we even looking at something that could work? Because if they correlate at 0.5, that might not be too good, but if they're up at like 85, 90%, that might be powerful enough for you guys to utilize just a picture of your steak and kind of put it into an algorithm that we would create. So yeah, something on my mind. Kyle?
Just another quick question. So there's been a lot of talk of other traits and new EPDs, and that's all great, but I mean, currently, Digital Beef has a bunch of reports and a bunch of reporting that you can submit for various things. Do you have enough phenotypes or robustness of submissions for, say, like heifer exposure sheets, so where you can start working on a heifer pregnancy deal, or, how many people are actually doing like cow exposure with their progeny, keeping up on that stuff, so you could start with stay? Like, do you have any idea of like what percentage of the membership is actually reporting that? Because
yeah, so when we were looking at the initial data that we requested from Digital Beef for the stayability stuff, the data cleaning on that took it down about 60%. And that's just kind of outliers or inconsistencies or, stuff that might just be auto-filled and didn't make sense. So Digital Beef has some again, it has so many tools and so many secret little ways that you can record things. It's just trusting that it's accurate and we have enough of it that'll work. Are you coming in? Okay. And so, 300, unbiased, accurate data points might be, something to look at, but it's nothing to build an EPD off of. And I think the other thing we need to keep in mind, and for all of you to keep in mind with EPDs, is it's not a one-time shot. So if you, create an EPD right now and we do all this work and gather all these phenotypes, that's great. We have this EPD of this great thing that we put a bunch of money into, but if we don't continue to collect phenotypes year over year over year, that EPD will degrade. That accuracy will completely degrade. So it's kind of I want to see where we're at and how consistent can we get that data in to support that EPD throughout the years.
So my problem, being more of a small producer, is, and I don't know if anybody here can maybe help with, my processor is relatively small, and I need the buy-in from my processor to help me get that information. And so how can we do that better, and how can I help my processor? Because they look at it as they only have so much time to do things, and they only have the staffing to do certain things, but I want to do collection, so how do we kind of partner together with our processors to help us collect that data?
It's a bottleneck. It's a bottleneck. And I talked to the geneticists, the nerd crews from all of the different breed associations, and we all have the same problem, is getting those packers to work with us. Their time is money, we understand, but it needs to come back to the producer at some point in time. Sheila, I'm not going to point you out, but Sheila does a great job talking to her packer, and I know there's a lot of people in the room that have smaller packers that collaborate pretty well. Yes? Yeah.
Swag helps a lot. So you really need to maintain that relationship and work on it, just like any relationship. When we first started with our packer, it was so-so. I think over the years, they'll bend over backwards for us now and do pretty much whatever we ask of them. And that's how we got the Authentic Wagyu program pretty much launched through them, was their cooperation.
Yeah, there's no magic bullet, unfortunately. And we can try to help you as much, like if you're like, hey, what do I even need? We can say, hey, these are data points you need. And then we can try to help you that way. But yeah, they're kind of a hard nut to crack sometimes.
You've got to have the packers and processors on board with what you want to do.
100%.
And I built my relationship out with my processor, but that's a work in progress, as you say.
Yeah, that relationship with your production facility is a work in progress. And the more we can get them to convince them that these data points are important, the better. But it does come from you, and if you need any backup, I'm always here. And not to point John Ed out, but she's really good at talking to those processing facilities sometimes too. So, yeah. One more, yep.
Hannah, just a question. Just now we were speaking about having a remote system where you could remotely, from different, say, smaller abattoirs or smaller plants, send in the data. For me, it's a no-brainer that the association should have that option. And breeders from all over the country can utilize a standardized system. When you get the data in, you set it up the way you want it. And then that data is immediately, you don't have to change it from one camera to another.
100%.
And have one system. I think that the board should do that as soon as they can. That would be my suggestion anyway.
Thanks, Brian. It's the dream that needs to be fulfilled, but the work behind it is daunting and a little scary, but I think it'll help everyone, and just know that it's on the forefront of my mind, and I think would be a great addition to this breed. If you have any more questions for Daniela and I, we will be around. Did you run numbers while you were up here?
I got some numbers, but yeah. Anyways, we can talk about that later.
Okay. Well, thank you all very much, and come talk to me out afterwards.
Yeah, thank you. I'll show him the numbers.